All right, back to our show. Welcome to the podcast. Our good friend Tucker Maxwell with Guild Mortgage, who Tucker has been with Guild Mortgage. How many years, Tucker? 6 years.
6 years.
6 years. He's definitely an expert in his field, and with the rapidly changing market, uh, we need some house hacks. So let's start with that. Like, Tucker, what are we going to do to help these buyers in this crazy market? And by just kind of definition, tell us what is house hacking?
Yeah, great question. House hacking is typically when somebody buys a primary residence, so their shelter, their dwelling where they're going to live, and uses a portion of that property to create some revenue, whether it's renting out a bedroom to a friend, whether it's converting a detached garage into an apartment. It could be even buying a duplex or a triplex and living in one unit and renting out the others. But it's typically when you buy a property and then use another portion of it to rent out.
Okay. So typically, in this instance, they already own it, or are we talking about a specific example or are there different variations? Is this buying it with the intent, or it's once you own it, the intent to use it?
It could be either or.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give me some examples.
Yeah. So one of the things I talk to for would be investors, somebody that's just starting out, wants to buy properties and rent them out. When buying a primary residence, you typically get a better interest rate and you can invest less in a down payment. So your guidelines are much more generous for your primary resident. So by buying the home with a primary resident loan and then renting it out, you're going to get the most favorable terms as opposed to buying it specifically just to rent out. So that's
Okay.
in the situation of somebody buying it with the intent of using part of it as a rental.
Okay. So what are the best type of properties to purchase for house hacking?
Um, Duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, so any unit that's multifamily. But it also could be homes that have large lots that could be potentially subdivided or separated. It could be a detached garage that has a separate entrance. Really, it just needs to be a property that's large enough to have a separate dwelling in it.
I see. And I do believe in Seattle, they allow for DADUs, right, which are I don't remember what DADU stands for, but it's detached ADU, which is additional dwelling unit, DADU. So, I believe Kirkland has as well. Tucker, is that right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, Kirkland's about to, or they already have, and Bellevue's right behind them. And then there's also state legislation that could make it legal across the entire state.
Okay. And it's interesting because what that does is you know, I think the purpose of that was to create more density so that we had more homes. But it sounds like the early adopters are the ones that are actually making money off that by creating a rental opportunity.
Exactly. It can be used for both. So, creating, additional density for home ownership. Think of a situation, let's use Kirkland as an example. Somebody owns a property there on a 10 to 15,000 square foot lot with a detached garage. They could potentially turn their single unit into a condo association and now sell that dadu to somebody else.
Oh, wow. They could actually do that, but they have to go through the conversion process. So their house becomes a condo complex.
Correct.
That's very interesting.
And then that
Okay.
that the owner manages the association and charges a fee to the other unit if they're on, let's say the example is they have one power meter, one sewer hookup, all of that. They would charge that other unit association dues to cover the expense.
I gotcha. Cool. Oh, that's very interesting. So, along these guidelines, somebody can't just buy a duplex as a primary residence and convert. There's some timeline that you need to be in a house in order for it to be considered a primary residence. Yes or no?
Correct. Yep. So when you're signing loan documents for a primary residence, you're signing that your intention is to live in that property or one of the one to two, three, four units within that property for the first year. So 1 year is kind of the key component that you would have to live in that residence for at least 1 year before you rent the entire thing out.
Okay. And then how does this affect your property taxes? Or I'm sorry, this question is taxes. So I'm guessing that's income tax, right?
Yeah, so a great question. It's just important that we, talk to a tax advisor and we're claiming income where necessary. But it's also important to remember that if you buy it as a primary residence, that you're doing what you intended to do, and that is to live there for the first year. So once you're beyond that first year and you are renting out one of those units, it does flow through to a Schedule E on your tax return, and you need to claim that income if it's more than $10,000 or whatever the tax laws are at that time. Of course, I'm not a tax advisor, so can't give that advice, but you just want to be mindful of it because it is essentially a business and you're generating income off of it.
Okay, so what's the bottom line?
The bottom line is this is a great strategy for people that want to get into real estate investing, but also may have not bought their primary residence yet. Use that first opportunity to buy multiple units or multiple revenue generating streams within their home.
Awesome. I'm going to actually do a quick search here. I want to see how many duplexes are available in the area. I can go fairly quick though.
While you're doing that, Dan, I will just share the cool thing about buying a duplex is that person, when we qualify them, we're going to actually qualify them off of the rents received in that second unit. So somebody could qualify at a higher price point for a duplex than they could a single family home.
That makes sense because you're qualifying. Now, are they qualifying 100% of that income?
Good question. So we're going to do a rent schedule. So we're going to ask the appraiser to tell us what the fair market rent is for that other unit. And then we're going to apply a 25% vacancy to it.
25. So 75% of the income is what they're going to do, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm working a little slower than normal, but that's okay. The outcome will be good.
You're good.
Duplex. So 35 homes in King and Snohomish County. So this is not just Eastside, but let's see. The price ranges from $580,000 in Everett to $1,250,000 in Seattle. Let's see. We've got one here in Kent. Let's see. Any on the east side. Renton, I've got $1 million. That's pretty spendy. So this multifamily actually, this is a cute one on Pine Street in Everett for $580,000. And let's see if I can see the income on this. So one unit's renting for $1,000. The other one's $1,850. Well, if I'm the landlord, I'll take the $1,000 unit and use the other one for qualification. So right there is a great example. If you or someone wants to house hack, they can reach out to Tucker at 425-757-9202, and we can help you through that. And one of the cool things about working with Tucker and myself is when it comes to managing this, you can hire a property manager, and then you don't have to pretend like you are the owner, right? You could just walk in and walk out and hire a professional property manager to vet the people. Here's the number one rule in renting. Easy in, hard out.
Yep.
Hard in, easy out. Right there. That's why I always recommend using a professional who's an expert in their field. Not me. I won't do property management. I'm horrible at that. All right. Hey, great conversation, Tucker. Thank you so much for that topic. I look forward to chatting with you next week. After this short commercial break, we're bringing on our good friend Evan Edmondson of Heartland. So don't miss this next segment.